We are talking about Kuṇḍalinī and its purpose today. Now, Kuṇḍalinī Śakti is that revealing and that concealing energy of Lord Shiva. This Kuṇḍalinī Śakti is not different from the existence of Lord Shiva, just as the energy of light and the energy of heat are not separate from fire itself. Now, Kuṇḍalinī, therefore, is in the true sense the existence of Lord Shiva. It is the life and glory of Shiva. It is Shiva himself, and this is the light of consciousness. In our Trika Shaivism, Kuṇḍalinī, which is that internal serpent power existing in the shape of a coil, is divided into three ways. The first way is supreme, and it is called Para Kuṇḍalinī. This Kuṇḍalinī is not known or experienced. It is so vast and universal that the body cannot exist in its presence. It is only experienced at the time of death. It is the heart of Lord Shiva. This whole universe is created by Para Kuṇḍalinī, exists in Para Kuṇḍalinī, gets its life from Para Kuṇḍalinī, and is consumed in Para Kuṇḍalinī. When this Kuṇḍalinī creates the universe, Shiva conceals his real nature and is thrown into the universe. This is his creative energy, and when Kuṇḍalinī destroys the universe, Shiva's nature is revealed. Para Kuṇḍalinī is that supreme Visarga of Shiva. When studying the theory of Matrika Chakra, Visarga, the 2 points comprised, these points are said to be Shiva and Shakti, but in the real sense, they are revealing point and the concealing point. The second division is Chit Kuṇḍalinī, and it is functioned by consciousness. It is experienced by the means of concentrating on the center between any two breaths, any two thoughts, or any two actions, between the destruction and the creation of any two things. In the teachings of the 7 states of Turiya, when one maintains his awareness continually in concentrating on the center, he enters in that junction which exists between any two states of the individual subjective body, waking, dreaming, or deep sleep. In doing this, one's breathing becomes coagulated, then stops and whirls about in one point. It then moves on the right side of that passageway of breath. If your awareness continues to be maintained with continuity, your breath is transformed from prana, breath, into pranana, life, and it rushes down through that central vein. It rushes down to the bottom to that chakra known as Muladhara, which is near the rectum. In this Muladhara, you briefly experience a crawling sensation. It is like the feeling when you are having intercourse and climax is just about to take place. Here, the beginning of intense pleasure occurs. After the momentary experience of this crawling sensation, it then rises in one flash, and when it rises, you become filled with absolutely blissful experience. The happiness and bliss that you experience here cannot be described. It is ecstasy beyond ecstasy, just like sexual bliss. But you will find that sexual happiness is 1/1,000,000th the part of happiness experienced in Chit Kuṇḍalinī. Simultaneously with the experience of ecstasy, you also realize the reality of self, your real nature, and you know that I am only bliss, Ananda, and consciousness, Chit. And when you maintain that bliss through the grace of your master, then the force of this Chit Kuṇḍalinī pierces Bhrumadaya, which is found between the eyebrows. Then Chit Kuṇḍalinī rises from Bhrumadaya to Brahmaranda, which is found at the top of the skull. You experience the rising flow of Chit Kuṇḍalinī as filling your whole channel from the base of the spine all the way up to the top of the skull. This flow of Kuṇḍalinī happens again and again. One moment you're inside experiencing that bliss of the rise of Chit Kuṇḍalinī, and then the next moment you breathe out and your eyes are open and you experience the world filled with ecstasy. This process of coming out and remaining in continues, and each time it occurs, it is filled with the more and more ecstasy. This process called Krama Mudra. When you are established in the process of Krama Mudra, then you experience that ecstasy in action. When you eat, you are in that bliss. When you talk, you are in that bliss. When you walk, you are in that bliss. Whatever you do, you remain in that universal state. This is his liberated life. Now the third division is Prana Kuṇḍalinī. This Kuṇḍalinī is functioned by the breath, and it also comes about through the process of centering. Prana Kuṇḍalinī, however, is only experienced by those who, along with their attachments to spirituality, also have attachments to those worldly pleasures. You do not have attachments for worldly pleasures, and you are only attached to spirituality, then the rise of Kuṇḍalinī takes place in the form of Chit Kuṇḍalinī. There is nothing you can do to determine how the rise of Kuṇḍalinī will take place. It rises in its own way depending on your attachments. Now, up to the point where your breath is being sipped down into that central vein, rushing to your root chakra, then through the momentary experience of that crawling sensation, the rise of Chit Kuṇḍalinī and the rise of Prana Kuṇḍalinī are the same. In the rise of Prana Kuṇḍalinī, however, when that crawling sensation is finished, then in the state of Muladhara, this chakra begins moving forcefully with a great speed in a clockwise direction. At that same time, you will also hear the sound of its movement. After some time, that force rises 12 finger spaces from the Muladhara chakra to the chakra at the navel, and then the chakra at the navel also begins to move, and you feel that simultaneously. Two wheels are in that motion, and you hear that sound of that movement. Here, as in Chit Kuṇḍalinī, the intensity of the real love blooms forth. It is so full of love and ecstasy that the experience of sexual bliss at that height of intercourse completely pales in comparison. From navel chakra, this force then rises to the heart chakra, which is experienced right between the center of your two breasts. And when that force reaches the heart chakra, it also begins to move, and you feel all three wheels spinning with great velocity. You hear their sound, and you even experience the spokes that comprise their wheels. Then from that heart goes to the throat, and next it goes through that chakra found between the two eyebrows. All chakras begin to rotate. When that movement of Bhrumadaya chakra, we have come to the end of that process of movement. It is important to note that through Prana Kuṇḍalinī, it must rise in succession from the base all the way up to the third eye chakra. When the force of breath moves from Bhrumadaya chakra rising to Sahasrara chakra, this chakra does not begin to rotate. It does not move, but rather it is pierced by great yogis, and this piercing does not always take place. Sometimes it is pierced and sometimes it is not. It all depends on whether or not you have those attachments to worldly pleasures. This piercing will only take place when you do not have any attachments for worldly pleasures, and when you do pierce this chakra, then you become completely filled with bliss and enter into that process of Chit Kuṇḍalinī. Now, if you do not pierce this chakra, then you will only travel up to that chakra between the eyebrows. And from that chakra, it is said that you will come out and you will achieve Astasiti, the great 8 yogic powers. Now, these powers have just been described to us by our masters as so. 1, the power to become unseen, invisible, the power to become so light that you can move through the air, the power to create and maintain an enormous body, the power to add weight to your body so that you become immovable, the power to have control over the cosmos. You can make it rain or you can make the sunshine, the power to make yourself attractive so that everyone wants to be with you, and the power to have control over your own bodily symptoms, the power to create hunger when there is none, or if you are hungry, to eliminate your feelings of hunger. And the 8th power is to pervade the whole universe. This power enables you to know what is occurring anywhere in the universe. Now, the danger, it is said, in achieving these powers lies in the fact that when you have and use them, then by and by you will be deprived of some portion of your spirituality. This occurs because due to the charm of these powers, you become ever more devoted to those worldly pleasures. Now, there is only one vein through which this breath passes in the rise of Kuṇḍalinī. When the breath is being sipped down to that Muladhara on the right side, and when it was returning, it is in the center. This conception of Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna is a gross conception. It is only descriptive of the ordinary courses of breathing. When Ida is present, then you breathe more through the right nostril. When Pingala is present, then you breathe more through the left nostril. When Sushumna is present, then you breathe equally through both nostrils. Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna have nothing to do with Kundalini. In some sastras, it is said that these chakras contain lotus petals. In Shaivism, though, these petals are not experienced, nor are they recognized. Now, the final note is that love is the stuff of life. Without love, you are not living. It is just as if you were dead. I'm not speaking of sexual love. I mean that real love. Real love exists in Kundalini. This is Kashmir Shaivism. This is Trika philosophy. Om Namah Shivaya.